Computer. Hi, I'm Paul Walters. This is pastor at Lutheran Church of the Master. This is our new interview series. I have Bishop Don Kreiss, Bishop of the Southeast Michigan Synod, with us. Good to have you with us, Bishop Kreiss. I would offer you a cup of coffee, but you'd have to go get it yourself. I would offer you swag like the Mighty Gobbler bandana, which is perfect for an emergency face mask.
Absolutely.
But I can't hand that to you either.
Yeah, if I can interrupt for one moment, you gave me last year the Mighty Gobbler gaiter.
Yeah.
And yes, I have used that as my emergency mask as Kristen and I walk. So yeah, so I am representing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, how is life in the pandemic at the Kreiss household?
Well, right now it's fairly quiet. It's Kristen and me. I have got a much greater appreciation of how complicated and how talented my wife is in terms of still trying to be a music teacher, K through 5, remotely. And so I get to test drive some of the lessons she's put together. We've done some family music. It's been astonishing. I'm walking.
The question then would be, are you smarter than a 4th grader?
Well, I'm much more anxious. I don't think I'm smarter. She says, you look always frightened. And I say, yes, I am, because I don't want to mess up. So, but the lessons are great and she's very good at it.
Good.
I've walked more in the last 4 weeks than probably I have at any point in my adult life, which is not a bad thing. And I know much more about the way my house looks in the day.
So there you go. Yeah. So I'm assuming your role as bishop is different now too. How's work life different?
Yeah, work life is way different. We have worked hard at maintaining safe spaces for staff. So we schedule very carefully who goes into the office, if anyone goes into the office on a given week, to make sure that we don't overlap. And then when you go in, it's still masks and gloves and wiping down all the surfaces. I have become astonishingly, to my mind, competent at Zoom and getting into these meetings mostly, and trying to maintain a regular schedule of meetings. In part, just because it's helpful to have some sort of normalcy in routine. Yep. So still have staff meetings on Monday, deans on Tuesday, the entire synod on Wednesdays, and then schedule around that. But to do all of that remotely, to do that by phone, by Zoom, by meetings that are set up is really remarkable. It's a lot of listening. It's a lot of putting out material and then inviting folks to respond, sort of offline, as it were.
Right.
But it is an interesting time to try to do this highly relational work when you can't actually be in each other's company.
Well, and what I find too is that it feels like I'm putting all this stuff out there, and I have no feedback on how it's being received, other than like the number of views on YouTube or Facebook. And I've also looked enough at the metrics to know that a view doesn't mean somebody watched the entire conversation that we're having.
Yeah, you don't want to drill down too deep, because I think there's always disappointment at the bottom of that hole. I have gotten a couple of just charming responses from folks that I got a letter today that I treasured, email, saying that one of our clergy said that my voice was soothing and it put her dog to sleep. And that is to sleep like napping, not sleep.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes.
Not all the way. Yeah.
And so she was very grateful that.
Well, we might need a recording for our 6-month-old, 65-pound puppy. Of your voice to put him to sleep. Anything would be helpful.
I would be glad to be of service if that works.
Excellent.
We can talk about a fee schedule later.
So as you look at the church and what's going on and everything and the synod, from your perspective, what are you anxious about as we move into this new world?
My anxieties, Paul, I think are ones that we all share. We are living in this time of great stress, in part because we just don't know what's going to happen next. Goes. And so that touches me as it touches most of us, on a day-to-day basis. I'm also deeply anxious about our Christian vocation to care for the least of those. That is part of our mandate as Christians. Jesus' concern for those on the margins, for those, for the poor, the oppressed, the hungry, the homeless. And those folks are bearing the brunt of the economic and social and physical and health challenges associated with this pandemic. And the task of the church is to respond, and we're working really hard at that and trying to figure out how do we engage appropriately, helpfully, and in a way that keeps us safe as well. I mean, it isn't to say that we don't have those members amongst us, but our call is to care for those folks, and they're getting kicked in the head by this virus over and over.
Well, it does seem that all of our economic and racial disparities are being heightened and highlighted by the pandemic.
Yeah, and I think some of the comfort that we've been able to live with has been the covering on that has been ripped off. And I think that we have been forced to confront some of the real challenges in the systems that we built and that mostly benefit us, except us, we have to recognize now is not everybody. And I think that that's a piece that we're going to need to get our minds and our hearts wrapped around as we move forward past this.
Sure. I think a visible sign of that, we talk about grocery store workers being heroes, but they also need those paychecks. And they're not going to be able to stay home and get paid, and they need to pay their rent, and they need health insurance, and they need food like the rest of us and all that too. So.
Absolutely. One of the things that we've learned is that our folks on the margins, and I use that descriptively just in terms of folks that are living, don't have the option of doing what Kristen and I have been able to do, which is simply hunker down, in our home and figure out, so what will we pull out of the freezer for dinner tonight? That's not an option for a lot of our brothers and sisters, and that gives me great concern.
Absolutely. So what are you hopeful for?
I'm hopeful in the midst of all that, and all those anxieties are very real for me and for lots and lots of us. The things that I find encouragement is that in ways that I still find astonishing, we have been both flexible and adaptable in ways that if you had said, let's get everybody in the Synod on doing remote worship, and I would have said, there is no way possible. That is simply never, that will be one of the signs that Jesus is coming back. And here we are. And we trust that Jesus has come back because we celebrated Easter. It's fantastic. Yeah. But if you had said, if you'd asked me before this, do we have the capacity? Do we have the will? Do we have the intention? Do we have the technology? Do we have the people that do this? I would say, no. Right. And the answer is yes, we do. And that's exciting because I think that has opened up an entire, a new possibility for us to be church and the way we do church and how we make witness in the world. And so that has been just remarkable and truly encouraging. The other piece that has been also of great comfort to me, we have these meetings with the Synod on Wednesday, and I did a wildly unscientific poll yesterday about that. And the vast majority of our folks were able to sort of, indicate thumbs up, sideways, or thumbs down. Our congregations and members therein have risen to this challenge in terms of their financial support. Folks are deeply committed to the life of their congregation and are willing to stake their financial resources, even in this time, to make sure that when we are done, that there will be a church to welcome them back and to proclaim the good news. And that is enormously, an enormous blessing.
And I can just, in case anyone's wondering at home, Lutheran Church of the Master was part of the thumbs up crowd in that highly unscientific and random poll. It is good to see signs of hope in the midst of the anxiety. Yeah. There's a lot of uncertainty, and then some of those things create opportunities. And you wonder, as we move forward, what does online worship look like in the context of a reopened world as we kind of look for some kind of normalcy, and how do we maintain those things, and how are we going to continue these new skills that we've developed in short order.
Yeah, I want to just be really clear. I do not want to, and I don't hear you saying it either, I'm not going to have us jump the gun. I am still deeply, deeply concerned about the health and safety of the communities that we live in and the communities that we serve. That's a priority. But then I think we also have had this extraordinary opportunity to sort of think about, when everything gets put on pause, to have a moment to step back and say, okay, then what do we need to re-engage with? What is critical to our ministry, to our identity, to our mission as Christians in the world? And to have a chance to think about that deeply, thoughtfully, without losing the momentum, because we've had to stop right now. And so that is, I'm also really hopeful about that, Paul.
Good, good. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the walking and being outside. I hope you have enough layers since it keeps snowing, which is not giving me joy at all. But thank you for your time. You have any final words you want to say to the people out there in the ether?
So grateful for the partnership of the saints at Church of the Master and for our friends in Southeast Michigan. Thankful for your partnership, Paul, and blessings. Stay safe. And I look fervently forward to the day when we can come together and be the church sitting next to each other and singing and praying and being fed at the table together. So thanks for the opportunity to share.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, Bishop. Have a wonderful day.
You too, Paul. Peace. Bye-bye.